What's going on, everybody? Paul Hickey here with No-Offseason.com. Here today to talk to you about Week 3 fantasy football predictions. Who will play well and who should you avoid? Let's get right down to it. Let's start with the quarterback position. We're going to start with who to avoid at the QB position. And culprit number 1 this week is Giants signal caller Eli Manning. We do not believe Manning will have a great game against the Cincinnati Bengals. It may seem like a cupcake matchup, but no one is more up and down than Eli Manning. And he will struggle in Week 3 against the Cincinnati Bengals after blowing it out of the water against the St. Louis Rams last week. We also recommend avoiding Matt Schaub against the Titans, Peyton Manning against Jacksonville, Brett Favre against San Diego, John Kitna at San Francisco, Derek Anderson at Baltimore, and Phillip Rivers against the Jets. Quarterbacks we like this week include J.T. O'Sullivan against the lowly Lions defense, Drew Brees and Jay Cutler, of course, who will participate in what we're calling the shootout of the week in Denver, Aaron Rodgers, Mark Bulger, Matt Hasselbeck with the additions of Corrin Robinson and Kerry Colbert, Jason Campbell, Kurt Warner, and even Kerry Collins against the Houston Texans should be pretty solid fantasy performers this week. Let's take a look now at the running backs that we are endorsing for Week 3. We really like Maurice Jones-Drew against the Indianapolis Colts, who are minus stud IDP free safety Bob Sanders. We also love Frank Gore against the Lions and expect Marshawn Lynch, Steven Jackson, Julius Jones, Darren McFadden if he's healthy, and Darren Sproles if LaDainian Tomlinson misses time, and also Fred Taylor to have very solid weeks as sleeper candidates. Lastly, believe it or not, we really like Jonathan Stewart against the Carolina Panthers, even though we do not like D'Angelo Williams. Expect Williams to start the game, get pounded, and then have Stewart come in with a breath of fresh air and stick it to the Minnesota Vikings at the Metrodome. What running back should owners avoid in Week 3? We would avoid LaDainian Tomlinson, Willis McGahee. We do not like Thomas Jones, Jamal Lewis, or Selvin Young. Moving along to the wide receiver position, there are quite a few sleepers this week. We really like Ike Hilliard to fill in for Joey Galloway. Lee Evans and David Patton have great matchups. They're WR3s that should play like WR1s. And for more desperate owners, guys like Corrin Robinson, who's recently signed on to become the Seahawks' new number 1 wideout, and Chancey Stuckey of the New York Jets are great waiver wire pickups to potentially insert directly into starting lineups. We also like Randy Moss to bounce back and have a huge week, as well as Steve Smith to return to the Panthers lineup and put up huge numbers against the Minnesota Vikings. We also really like Bryant Johnson of the San Francisco 49ers, who's coming off a solid week against Seattle and has a completely cupcake matchup against the Lions. Expect Chad Johnson and TJ Houshmandzadeh to enter back into respectability against the Giants, but to not quite be must-starts just yet. What wide receivers should fantasy owners avoid in Week 3? Well, we're not too crazy about Santonio Holmes against Philly, Roy Williams against San Francisco. Braylon Edwards should get locked down by Baltimore's defense. And we're really upset with the fact that Peyton Manning's been ignoring Marvin Harrison recently. And the Colts offense just doesn't have it together yet. Avoid Marvin Harrison in Week 3. We also obviously recommend fantasy owners to avoid the hobbling Bernard Berrien, who may not even play against the Panthers. Tight end predictions for Week 3. Tony Scheffler should continue his hot streak against the Saints, and we really like Vernon Davis to have a breakout game against the Detroit Lions. IDP predictions. Look for defensive ends Patrick Kearney, James Hall, and Justin Smith to be very solid, along with linebackers Keith Rivers, Freddie Keaho, Thomas Davis, Chad Greenway, and defensive backs Nate Clements, Bernard Pollard, Michael Griffin, Lawyer Malloy, and Charles Woodson to be great sleeper candidates in Week 3. Thanks for checking out our video content, and don't forget to check out our Ultimate Strategist package on our forums. For only $9.99, you can get unlimited roster management advice and updated personalized player rankings every week throughout the NFL season. Thanks and have a great day.